Call our City Commission meeting to order, May 21st, 2007. Call roll, please.
Stevens.
Here.
Tran.
Here.
O'Neill. Here. Neal.
Here.
Young.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Doherty. So, sir.
We have a quorum. Thank you. Okay, we'll have our invocation tonight by Reverend Dave Lewis from the United Presbyterian Church. Give him a few minutes to get up here with his crutches. Appreciate you being here tonight with your crutches. All who wish to, please rise.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we begin tonight by thanking you for a beautiful day, for changing of the season into summer. And we pray that you guide our city leaders tonight as they take up the issues here. Pray that you grant the city council creativity in addressing the present and the future of Shawnee. And we ask you that you grant all citizens here the courage to forgive, the strength to love, the willingness to reach out to our neighbors in friendship. And we ask a special blessing upon those tonight who will not eat, those who will be sleeping in the park or under a bridge, for those who are ill or sick, and for those who are hurting. Open our hearts to such as these. In your name we pray. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, position, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Reverend Lewis. Okay, number one, consider approval of agenda.
Move to approve.
Motion by Vice Mayor Peterson. Second by Commissioner O'Neill. Call roll, please.
Peterson.
Aye.
O'Neill. Aye. Neal.
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Tran.
Aye.
So, motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, number two, consider approval of consent agenda. Have a motion? Anything before?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Young, second by Vice Mayor Peterson. Any other discussion? Call roll, please.
Young.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Tran.
Aye.
O'Neill. Aye. Neal.
Aye.
So, motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Citizens' participation. Okay.
Must be doing something right.
Must be. Moving right along. Number four, City Manager's presentation of Employee of the Month to Scott Batchhopper, Communication Systems Technician. I hope I said that right. Is it Bachhofer or Bachhofer? I think we had a discussion where that was German or what.
Yeah, actually his name is MacGyver.
Oh.
Come on up, Scott.
Where's his tool belt?
Yeah, he doesn't need one.
Oh, he's got it on.
He's just got one of those little Leatherman tools or whatever. Really, I'm just amazed with Scott. The stuff that he can do is really remarkable. And we're really indeed privileged to have him. Scott was born in Jacksonville, Florida. Moved here while he was still quite young. Graduated from Prague High School in '95. He was on the track team while maintaining a full-time job. He then attended 2 years at Votech, and on November 30 started in our emergency management division as a communication system technician. He's currently in the process of tying the Shawnee radio site into the statewide system. And with that, he assists many other departments in a variety of ways. And it says in here again, he's MacGyver. We are very pleased with you being here. You took a huge load off us, and it's great to be able to give you this Employee of the Month. You want to say anything? No.
Thank you, Scott. We appreciate your work. Okay, number five, presentation by Jim Sims of ADA Award to Bo Bullock of Knuckles Pub. This may be a first. Jim, is that microphone working okay?
Yes. Randy? Bo here. Saw Randy didn't say Bo. Said the other one.
Someone's got to work, right?
You know, some of the best people in the world live right here in Shawnee. Very quick one about a man, senior citizen, lung cancer. He saw someone in distress, stopped, got out of his car, and a lot of effort to help him out with this. Now, Bo and Brandon did a business here in town. They went through all the inspections, all that, got temporary CO. And then, after that, they went to a whole lot of expense and effort to redo some things that have been done wrong, not on their part, but on other people's part. Well, this says, I want to let everyone know that after Knuckle Pub passed final inspection and received a certificate of occupancy, the owners, Randy and Bo Bullock, went the extra $5K to make their business successful. Well, give me a second. And that we're going to do for years.
We appreciate what you've done for downtown, and I know that, thank goodness for, people that need assistance like Jim. You've got the elevator, because those stairs are pretty steep. When that was Shawnee Garment, obviously, Jim, that's what you're talking about. You've got an old building that's been there a long, long time, and I've seen Bo from day one go in and renovate that building. A lot of sweat and a lot of money that went into that. And it's a beautiful facility, and I invite everyone, of course, to go down next to the Hornback above the, what's the antique? Memory Lane, and go see Bull. He's doing a great job downtown. Appreciate that. Okay, number 6, public hearing concerning the adoption of the cable permit with Allegiance Communications. Call the public hearing open. We have a staff report.
Steve Nolan, Assistant Administrator. As you probably know, the Cable Advisory Committee has been meeting and negotiating and working through this permit process for over a year now. I think it was started late 2005 and kind of finalized in spring of 2006. And we've had a lot of meetings. I've been privileged to work with the members on this committee. They've really done a lot of work, a lot of research, and brought all their different specialties together and helped put together this permit and negotiate moving forward with the Allegiance franchise or permit in our city. I don't have any really details in it. The chair of the committee's here. He did a lot of legwork and a lot of research of other cities, and he may have some other things to say as well as answer any questions that I may not have.
Well, I know that I was in a lot of those meetings, and you guys, again, have done an awesome job and also helped us launch the City Connect at the same time. But this is huge, and John Stovey, I'll tell you, you stepped up, knew nothing about this, took it for your own, and ran with it, did all the research, and you had, Roger Hadley, of course, he was there before, and Bill Johnson worked this thing last time, how many years ago? 14 years ago, and it's a huge undertaking. This is complex, means a lot to the city, and then we had Tony McMurray and several other people, Connie Little. We had a really good group that came together and worked, and there's Connie's husband right there, so I can say half of the Littles are here. But I really appreciate the job you guys have done and gone through and negotiated, and we tried to negotiate to get the PEG channels for public education government channels so that we can have City Connect and other opportunities to interact with the public here at Shawnee. And that took a lot of negotiating, and I appreciate that. Negotiated a little bit of money for the City Connect too program. So nothing, tell us a little bit, because I know it wasn't that easy, because you changed from charter to Allegiance, and there were a lot of issues you had to deal with, I know.
That was probably the biggest reason it's taken us this long to go through. When we
started the process. It was still charter, and but they had already had the commission already approved the sale. So the sale had been approved, and it was Allegiance, but there was other issues with the sale that we never actually knew when it was going to actually take over. So we talked to Charter for a while, and Charter would stonewall us because they really didn't want to do anything that would prevent the sale from happening, my guess was. Plus they, so finally the sale happened, August? September. Then the sale happened and things went a lot quicker. Then all of a sudden we all could get on board, and Andy and we just really started working through it. So it's really been I would say, from what some newspaper clippings I read from last time, it was a fairly a good negotiation. It was hard a couple of times, and we had to do our deals, but it wasn't contentious, and we always walked away trying to do what's best for the city and him for his company. And so I think it's a good agreement. I will say that the one thing I'd like to say that the city needs to watch. Right now, the landscape for franchising has completely changed, and it's changed over the past year. AT&T wants to roll out their ability to put cable over phone lines, but they don't want to negotiate with every municipal authority in the world or the United States to be able to do that. And so they pushed, last year was a strong push with the COPE Act 2006 national legislation to be able to have a national franchise, which basically would then do away with the city's ability to regulate our own cityways. And it didn't work. It got stalled in committee. There was an attempt in 2007. It didn't seem to work out very well either. So AT&T has turned, and now they're going to the states. Texas has already passed a state franchise. I think Missouri has one too, right? Missouri's got a state franchise. There's about 7 big states right now that Florida's in the middle of one, Wisconsin. Depending on which state and how it all works, some of the franchise agreements, the state franchise agreements, allow for immediate. I mean, as soon as it's in law, there's no grandfathering, there's nothing, it's immediate. They can sign up for a state franchise. Others are a little more friendly towards the city. They say if competition comes in with the state franchise, then at that point, then they can move over. So I do think this is probably, my guess would be, the last local franchise we'll ever negotiate. FCC just came out with a ruling a couple of months ago that's not very friendly to cities either. It's getting fought in court. So I do think, as in Oklahoma, from what I could watch and see, and I'm not real in the know, there's not anything going on right now. There was one bill, and it doesn't seem to have much involved with actually the local franchising, but it will come. We're smaller states, smaller potatoes, so they'll probably come next year or so.
Yeah, it died. I was at OML was fighting that, and they were basically trying to just use the right of ways, and they accomplished that with a few cities, maybe around Tulsa or in Tulsa. They came in at 5%, and they'll negotiate with the larger cities to be able to, right. And they'll just go on with the franchise there. That's maybe how they always will do with Oklahoma because of our population is so low, and that we may have a franchise for a long time. It's difficult to tell. It's just very different from when I first started reading about franchise agreements. It's real different from what was negotiated 2004, 2003. Right. All those agreements that were signed are very different than these are now. So, but I think it's important that the city watch and pay attention to those things because most of the state and national franchises that I've read are not friendly to the city as far as they're corporate. AT&T's putting their money behind it because they want their stuff. So that's fine. It's good. But it's competition.
It's competition. So, any other questions?
Appreciate that. And we were lucky that Andy stayed on with Allegiance.
You bet.
Gave us some good history, and
it went a lot faster.
Community support.
We'd already were on the ground running, and as soon as the Allegiance sale happened, it really didn't change much with Andy and I. I just started talking to him and called. His email address changed, and that was it.
Any questions for John, committee?
No, I had some questions, and John answered them. So I have a couple of details to ask about still.
Okay. To Steve or to,
Well,
You can ask me.
I'll ask you.
she's got backup over there.
Got four guys.
Yeah.
One is the question that I asked on 9-6 about the notice being given to the mayor for the city of Shawnee representative instead of a city manager or something.
We can change that. I mean, I think that was, my guess would have been that's what it was on the last permit,
Right.
and we just copied it over. It was probably a matter of convention, but if we need to change that,
That needs to
I don't
change.
see a problem with it.
I would recommend that
I would.
Okay.
that needs to change to city manager. Okay. And then on the list of cable connections to schools and public buildings, boy, I have read this list. I couldn't tell you how many times. Is station number 3 just not on here, or they're not interested, or I missed them?
Probably not on there. We just need to
Okay.
add that.
Okay,
Correct
and,
me. Well, wouldn't you think, Andy? Station number 3, fire station number 3. It's just not on the list.
okay.
We just need to put it on there. Thank you.
And what about the public works building? Whether you do, if it's a city building, whether we do it or not, it needs to be in our contract
just
that we
needs-
can.
We just need to add it.
Okay. Okay.
Public Works,
Public
station number
Works and
3.
Station number 3. That's
Okay.
the only two I could think of. I have an administration kind of question.
Okay.
Maybe that would go to Steve. There are many comments in here, one of which is about audits and audits of fees that are paid to us. Will we put on a regular schedule something like a 2 or a 3 year audit to ensure that the funds coming into the city are correct?
We have never,
We've never done that?
I don't think we've actually ever audited the books to see if the franchise fees are, in my knowledge.
Okay.
I don't think it's ever happened. I think that does get included into the permit because we want the ability to be able to do
Andy,
that.
I know.
To be able to do that.
Yeah, I believe it has occurred with an independent audit that the city has done every now and then. That we've come up
Oh, through the independent audit.
Okay.
to provide
I see.
backup information
Okay.
here.
Okay.
The city itself hasn't done that because we provide fairly decent backup. The independent auditors the city uses have requested that a couple times.
Okay. Okay.
But if you give us a line item, we'll audit.
Yeah.
See, the other dated thing in here says junior highs, which is now middle school.
Which is now middle
Yeah.
school. Yeah, we probably need to change that too.
But the junior high gym does have cable in the building, although once the new facility is built at the high school, will that be included?
New gymnasium and, is that part of the high school? Part of the high school?
It's part of the high school. It's right next door.
I mean, realistically, it won't be, and let me explain why. It's not part of the contract, it's there's already a single outlet in the library at the high school. And that's what this document provides for.
Okay.
That being said, I don't know of very many of our public schools where we have limited them to one outlet. So what we would look at is strictly, the expense to get mainline cable to the new facility and maybe a cost type basis share. But I mean, I know most of the elementary schools here, it's required for every classroom. We really have gone way above and beyond what's required of this. I don't know
Do-
if that answers your question, but we're
Well, they
usually
kind of already have
on
one.
the very positive side of that type of situation. Same thing with the new school that's being built.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do we need to add the early childhood center to this
It's a
list?
separate building.
It's a separate.
You won't, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you don't need to, we're not going to not provide service to any of the schools here. And in the document, even though it's listed
it does say, if you look, yeah, that's true. In the document, it does say any public school earlier, and then there is a listing that's beyond just so I would say that's probably not it's more of it's not inclusive in the fact that you have to be on the list to get your cable. It would be, because it does say earlier on, I'm almost positive that's right. Cable service, the grantee upon written request shall provide without charge one outlet of basic cable, those administrative abilities under operating grantor, fire stations, police stations, libraries, and each public school located in the service area.
Okay.
So that in itself is a comprehensive term that we're using.
And those are delineated in Appendix A and Exhibit A.
Right, and that's delineated, but I wouldn't say that Exhibit A is
all inclusive.
Is all inclusive.
Okay.
We actually added that because there's so many locations we're providing free service to for reasons that didn't meet the definition, really including, base set and some of the others that we feel are still the right choices as a community partner to do as well as that.
So the new facility can have access, but it will come with the.
We're right outside the door already.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay, questions? Okay. All right.
Just as a procedural question, with these small changes we're making, we're going to approve these changes amended to this document, and we don't have to bring this back, correct?
No, we would approve it with the changes.
As amended?
Right.
Okay. Not that I wouldn't mind coming back.
Sure. You're invited anytime you want. Okay, anyone else wish to speak for or against this proposal, this permit? Okay. We'll close the public hearing. And we need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the permit as amended.
Motion by Vice Mayor Peterson. Item 7. Consider an agreement with Allegiance Communications to operate and maintain a cable television system to service the city of Shawnee.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion by Vice Mayor Peterson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Stevens.
And really, the only thing we changed is the name on 9-6 and then the inclusive list on Exhibit A.
Okay.
Okay.
Title? To read on that? Is there a, no, we don't? Okay, no big deal. Okay, other discussion? Call roll, please.
Peterson.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Tran.
Aye.
O'Neill.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
So motion carries.
Motion carries, thank you. Let's get on to number 8. Public hearing and consider proposed budget for FY 2007-2008. Open the public hearing. Staff report. Thanks, guys.
Okay, I think we can get through this in about an hour and a half, so. How about 5 minutes instead?
That sounds better.
Wonderful.
Okay,
Yeah, let's see.
time's on, huh?
Yeah.
I'll just lead off with a few things. The 2002 amendments to the Oklahoma Budget Act is in Title 11, Oklahoma statutes, put the legal approval authority at the department level. That is how the budget is being presented to you today for your approval. Now, we will continue to operate at the line item level and we'll provide anybody that wants a line item budget. But from a statutory standpoint, that's the document in front of you. We've been over this several times. We do have a couple of adjustments. There are 2 page replacements. Page which you've just received, and Steve to the press have those adjustments as well. Did you hand out those? Okay. Page 15, which is the bottom of the general fund. What you had before does not have the 43,461 fund balance after accounting for accrued compensated absences. Okay, it was at 83,461, but that is due to a transfer to the airport, which I will get to in a minute. Okay? That leaves a total in there, counting accrued absences, is $1,295,945. So that is the first page replacement. The second page replacement is on page 49 of your budget, and that simply is a restatement of the Shawnee Municipal Authority showing the fund balance at 9/31/719. Okay? And then finally, pages 52 and 53 are in error. They are redundant in your budget and should simply be eliminated, just pulled out of there completely. This is the document that we just presented to you. All right? The correct ones, Steve, am I saying that right, are on 50 and 51. So you can just pull 52 and 53 out of there and chunk them. Okay? I think I got that right? Okay, cool. Okay, since the last public meeting we had on this, or work session rather, and this comes down to kind of the end of it, we've made two adjustments. The first, I alluded to a moment ago, that decreased the $83,000 in the general fund down to $43,000. The reason for this is the airport, if you remember at our last meeting, was still a little unsettled. Of course, being a municipal government, we cannot operate in a deficit. Only the federal government can do that, which is another discourse that we won't get into. And so what we've done is we've transferred $40,000 from the general fund into the airport authority. And that, again, decreases it down to 43 from the 83. Tied to that, we are transferring $25,000, and this is on page 51 and 52, okay, from economic development over to the airport, so that we can end up with a new ending balance in the airport of about $14,000 and some change. We have had this discussion with the Airport Advisory Committee, and it means that we are in compliance that way. So the general fund took a little bit of a hit, and the economic development fund took a little bit of a hit as well. Essentially what happened is the general fund took a $25,000 hit for the economic development fund, which then put it over to the airport. So anyway, that's the way that's sitting. And then finally, in economic development, we do have a plug number for the downtown Shawnee. Since the meeting for the contract review was not till last Friday, we could not get that on the agenda. And that will be on the next agenda, June 4th. That action will be taken prior to the final approval of our budget. And I think that does it. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
You don't have a figure for that?
Yes, we've plugged $32,000 in, which is the same amount that we currently have this year. Obviously, that will be a city commission decision at the end, but we needed to do something because the meeting was late in the week.
So in the 262, that has 32 from downtown. The 262 expenditures on economic development.
Yeah, I need to zap that over.
What page is that?
Do you remember what page it is? Thank you. Yes, it's right in front of the spay-neuter fund. I should have known where that was. So, yes, it does. The 262 has 32 in there for downtown.
Okay. Why, since we're on this page right here,
Yes.
why doesn't it show transfers in the transfer line, since we have transfers to sister cities?
That's a good point.
Transfers to the airport.
The sister cities budget line item was actually put in an invalid department number last year. It's in there as a 50/30 department, and all the other transfers are the detail mixing up or in the right department. I think it was when the budget was imported last year, it had a different department number in there. Well, it's in the right fund. That drops down that 10,000 down there in that other line item. We already have a transfer of sister cities line items. It's just, I think it was brought across wrong last year. We want to get that back up where the history's at in the normal economic development area.
But I think she's right. It raises a valid point that we should put into that transfer item those that we are moving out.
All the others are in the proper 5600 account. just this one is in a different department, so it breaks it out as a separate transfer. Going all the way back to the other budgets, it's always been in the same, the other numbers are not in the bottom number. Last year was approved.
I mean, the one you gave me right here. I'm going to look.
It bounced around, it looks like.
Well, that kind of goes to an overall question that I have, which is this chart right here.
Yeah.
And this really represents the funds that we have, even if it's oil and gas, spay and neuter, anything like that, and any transfers that are done between the funds, if it's here, then should it show up in a transfer line in the budget? Do you follow me? Instead of mixed with...
Here, all these transfers will match up. The way it summarizes it is different. See, this is where my markings were. Here's all the transfers coming out of that fund. And this total here matches your 90,000 coming out of that fund. This is the one that, see, was in here, then it was up here, and then it was back down here, and it really should be up with all these others. So in the detail, it's in there.
Okay.
And y'all can say, well, when we get the finalized document, you're going to prove
Well,
it at that level.
right, and we approved this. We approved transfers between funds, but then I can't find it in here.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I think it raises a valid point. Let me think about that.
It may just be a detail, but as I go to compare, sometimes it says transfer, sometimes it doesn't, and I go a lot off this diagram too.
Sure. Again, that is in the detail budget that we went through, and we'll be, that's the document we're going to operate off of anyway.
Okay.
And we can present it, we'll provide a detailed budget to anybody who requests it.
We can put them all, I mean, we can change where they're going in and the other line items and put them all in this 50/30 department. And then it'll show up separately in your summarize report.
Well, the thing is, if this is the level of control that I have, I just want to make sure that it happened without it being wrapped up into something I don't see.
That's valid. It is. We can make that
Makes
adjustment.
sense.
Thanks, Steve. Steve. That's a good point.
I'll check the other ones to make sure all the other funds have all the, I mean, we have individual
Okay.
transfer line items, so we're tracking them. It's not all, it's not rolled up into another line item.
Okay.
But it's not, that particular fund, they're broken up, they're split up into two different groupings.
And the chart on the back up, on the very last page of the budget, needs to reflect that transfer from economic development over to the airport as well.
Yeah.
And from the general fund over
And
to the
general.
airport.
That's correct.
So the airport needs a box.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, we've had quite a bit of discussion when putting together the airport budget, and we have not been able to find an airport anywhere in the vicinity of our size and characteristics that's not supported by the general fund of the city. So this is not unusual. Now, we've gotten pretty good, and it's come a long way in the last 3 years. But it's going to continue to need some general fund support for a while until we can get some additional revenue streams.
With that said, is it acceptable that this year the airport closes with a minus 59,000
Well, it won't now because we transferred it in
for next year?
for this coming year.
Okay,
Yeah.
but this current year, we now see that closing in a negative.
Steve, what are we going to end up with in any balance on that?
Negative something, it ended up negative last year as well as far as the budgetary numbers were concerned. Negative 55 was the actual audited number, the year before that for 0506. It's projected to go down to 89.
But it won't, so we'll make the adjustment accordingly.
It's been an audited negative number the last 2 years in a row.
Yeah, that's the reason we're going to move it to a positive by the transfer from the general fund.
Okay. Because I don't want to close out another year with a negative there without us doing something about it. That's our responsibility to not ensure that happens. And what it looks like you're going to close out here, looks like that's going to happen. So I don't know if some of that, if we need to talk about that transfer happening now, or if we are okay from an audit standpoint by adjusting it in the future budget.
Okay, I'll check on that and I'll have that for you on 6.
Okay.
And again, the goal as we build these funds that were in jeopardy a few years ago back to some sense of financial health, we'll be adjusting each one of these as we go along. I will tell you the UAC Center has frankly saved the airport. It'd be nice if they had $65,000 more revenue. Then the general fund wouldn't have to do anything with it. But right now we don't. And as a result, what we're trying to do is take, if we can complete the sales that are on the table to OBU and the others, then we can hopefully take some of that capital money and turn it into T-hangers for more operational revenue. If you remember, for people that are new to it, the city did take on the FBO responsibilities last year. That's the reason the airport budget went through such a dramatic shift.
Well, the bigger part of the T-hangers is not so much the revenue generation, which we're not sure how much that's going to generate anyway, would be bringing more pilots, more planes, buying more fuel, maybe giving us opportunity to bring in someone that would provide services to those people. So it's creating a community at the airport, which would then allow us to grow the business.
That's correct. That's correct. The ultimate goal is for the airport to be self-sufficient. I mean, it is an enterprise fund after all, but it's going to take us a few years to get there.
Right. Other questions? Of course.
Does anybody else have any there? On page 45, it looks like we're capitalizing labor and engineering and planning.
Steve?
Street improvement.
What's
for
the 48
planning,
in the engineering or in the
48,000.
planning?
Has the, go to the back of the document, they have their street sign replacement project. It comes out of the street improvement fund.
Okay.
Is that going to be part of the wayfinding replacement? Or new and replacement?
It's got the street light replacement, rollovers in there, 25 and 23.
There he is right now. Perfect timing.
Those are deemed fundable out of street improvement 2 years ago. They're street-based knowledge.
What page?
Labor is in engineering.
Wait a minute. What page is planning?
71.
60.
The street construction, capital outlay area. The top two line items are the street light replacement, where he's replacing those with more decorative street lights. Some of those areas might have done what I'm probably.
Okay.
You mean like out on North Kickapoo? Okay. He's shaking his head yes, you're shaking your head no.
And the capitalized labor in the engineering is what we discussed during the budget process. That was we checked with Crawford on that one. That's what
Okay.
we could very easily justify.
Then you'll add a box for us.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You bet.
All right, a minute. And that's just a general question. Hotel motel surcharge. We collect funds, we're basically a pass-through, but we have a certain percentage that we keep for administrative purposes.
Yes.
Is that just rolling over every year in this fund balance, or does it get transferred to the general fund to take care of that business?
I don't know. Steve, do you know?
It's been just maintaining in that fund from what I've seen. I don't think it has transferred out that I've looked at and seen. You see it's setting in a fund, gaining interest right now. It could be transferred, I mean, at some point we could do it.
I just want to understand what that is, because that fund balance is getting pretty high, when it looks like we haven't passed everything through. I mean, this is 6 digits now.
Yes.
Yeah, it's rolled over 100,000. Supposed to go that direction.
Okay.
Could be used. I would probably find out what the right way to do it.
Well, if we say that it's used to pay for the administrative work
That's
done
correct.
to administer this, then this fund needs to go over to the departments that handle it.
Absolutely.
That's
Which
right.
is the general fund.
That's right. Before I get to capital. Okay, on capital projects, the Kickapoo 45th, I-40, the 249, 418.
Where are you now?
I'm on page 71.
Okay. Yes, that's it. 45th I-40.
Okay, I thought we did not have to pay anything on that.
John?
And therefore, that will not be an expense next year.
So that was the rollover for the decorative lights I was talking
Right.
about, half mile from 45th to I-40. Also, we just got a bill from OG&E for $59,000. ODOT was picking up the utility relocates, but there's one stretch in there that's in front of Delta Cafe and what used to be Charlie's Chicken, where we had to go underground because we didn't want to have to purchase more parking lot and more property to go overhead. So we went underground, and that way we had the clearance for the signs. That we came before the city commission, I believe. The city commission approved that agreement to go ahead and have OG&E put it underground. ODOT will not pick up the underground cost for that little stretch. This money in this account will pay for that, and plus also pay for the decorative lighting. That's why we rolled it over. This is money that was already funded.
Okay, so then it needs to be rolled over. It needs to have a check mark on it. And we're going to spend $250,000 on all of those things. Or 50.
Bill that we got from OG&E for putting it underground. The remainder was for the decorative lighting. Doing it as a project, we got design back from OG&E yet. That's why we went ahead and requested to have that money rolled over for this budget.
And then whatever's left over, then conceivably we can transfer somewhere else if we need to.
Right, whatever left over from that project, and we'll just go back into the street project.
Right now, we need the revenue stream to cover that eventuality because, again, we don't have the design done. We don't know what the cost is going to be.
Was that part of the original plan?
That's not- it was one of the options.
For Kickapoo from 45th?
Originally that money,
Yeah, didn't we originally budget like 200-some-thousand?
yes, originally.
That was for our match, though.
That was for our match for, typically on an ODOT project, it's a 75-25% split. On this project, through efforts by the city, we had ODOT pick up the entire cost, 100% of the construction cost. And then typically on our agreement with ODOT would be that the city would be responsible for picking up the utility relocate costs on a project of this nature. And that's what that was budgeted for. But then, again, through the efforts of the city, we got ODOT to agree to pay 100% of the utility relocates that was involved with the project. But they would not pick up that incremental cost for what they considered was an enhancement, where it had to go underground in front of Delta Cafe and Charlie's Chicken. And that's what we requested. As far as trying to beautify the area, we did it on an incremental basis to where, okay, we have to do it underground through this area because that's where the businesses are, and we didn't want to acquire any more right-of-way. But from that point further south, as development occurs, that's when we thought, well, we could make, the developer or the land commission put in an underground facility all the way to 45th Street. ODOT wouldn't go for the underground installation. So they'll pick up the cost of the overhead relocation. And so that's why we didn't have to spend any money out of that budget yet, other than the $59,000 we're getting as an invoice for the underground part. And then we requested in the budget process to go ahead and roll the remainder over because we don't know what the costs are yet for the decorative lighting we're going to do for the half mile up there. Of course, we viewed this money to pay for that. We didn't want to budget new money for decorative lighting. We were looking at using the old money that had already been previously budgeted for this project. Of course, anything left over, we would assume that would just go back into our street fund and then be reallocated when we come back with our 3-year street program to you. That's what that's. Did
Okay.
I answer your question, or did it?
I'm trying to weigh why things like decorative lighting may have come above sidewalks or something in that area on that street. Just the other enhancements that could have been made.
We did put sidewalks in on the west side, but we couldn't really put sidewalks in on the east side because of the terrain differential, and then they didn't even do any widening as part of the project. Didn't even touch construction-wise anything on the east side because there's a 60-inch storm sewer right underneath the curb there. So all the construction was to the west because it was cheaper to do it that way.
Okay.
And of course, as they build, they're going to have to put more sidewalks in, so it's a good thing. Fill in the blanks.
The only other point I would make is in the agenda on page 45, you can see the summarizations. Okay, all these numbers are easy to find in the budget document you've been given, with the exception of the general fund. The 17,249 is the beginning balances plus the new sources of revenue, so you add those together to get that. All the others are immediately available to you or readily readable to you as you look through the funds. Now we will make the adjustments as noted for the final adoption on the 4th of June.
Okay, well, we're going to change all the pages to say 0708 instead of 0607.
Thank you.
And
I
then
didn't see that.
on page 1, I think there's a typo on general fund 0607 budget says 5 million, supposed to be 15.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't get that one. Second.
We put you on payroll.
No.
Yeah, really.
Didn't
We
you all look
always
through
do.
this? Did
Yeah.
everybody not read their documents?
We go through these over and over again, and it's really
A
helpful.
little glazed, so, you know, they all run together after a while.
We go through these over and over again, you're going to miss a few.
Yeah, really. I really do, I'm going to say it again and again. I appreciate you taking the time to go through those, and that's what you do so well. And I appreciate it because someone's got to.
Everyone else needs to also.
Well, you know, you look at it, and
I'm not infallible.
sometimes you've got some particular history in certain areas that have helped, and so you immediately start looking in certain areas just to make sure that what was said before is still there. And just like we went through our budget process, we kind of remember some things, promises that were made, and try to keep those promises to do what we said we'd do. So it's a lot of detail.
Are we going to have another hearing on this? And this just our first one?
Yeah, it's June 4th, we do the final.
Okay.
And then we present the next date. We have until the 20th of June to turn in the final document to the state.
On the streets too, I'm sorry, I didn't see it until, I knew it was somewhere else. OBU University Street is not marked as a rollover, but it's $80,000. Is that a rollover? Okay.
Do we anticipate finishing that? John, you know?
Should be a rollover. It was money budgeted from last year. ODOT is now awarded the project, so we won't be
Okay.
making reimbursement to them until the project's completed, which will be after later on this summer. That money's a rollover.
Okay,
Well, that's the kind of stuff that I'd like to look at again before we finally
that's fine.
accept it, if you don't
You
mind.
bet.
Other questions? Okay. Do we need, is this a open, anyone wish to speak for or against? Okay. Anyone wish to speak for or against? We're going to visit this one more time, June the 4th. So, okay. Close the public hearing. Do we, don't need a motion to do anything, do we?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's move on then to number 9. Consider a resolution amending resolution number 5996 by replacing the manager of the Heart of Oklahoma Exposition Center with a trust designee as a member on the Tourism Advisory Committee. This was brought forth, a request by Gordana Rowell from the CVB, and this is just, I think this has to do with Misty Henson, the new marketing manager.
Donna, we'll find out in just a second.
Okay. Got some explaining to do. Be sure to pull that microphone down there. I want to be able to hear you. Thank you.
The request came through because at the time the resolution was originally written, it was the manager of the trust authority and the operations manager was the same person. Now we have those duties segregated into a city employee as the operations manager, which is me, and a new marketing director that's a trust authority employee. And I think it just is a clarification. We already have representation of the city. And so this would be representing the trust.
All right. Okay. All right. Any questions? Thanks, Don. Appreciate it.
Move to accept the recommendation.
Motion by Commissioner Schran,
Second.
second by Commissioner Stevens. Read the title, please.
A resolution amending resolution number 5996 of the city of Shawnee, changing the membership of the Tourism Advisory Committee by replacing the Heart of Oklahoma Exposition Center manager with a representative of the Heart of Oklahoma Exposition Center as appointed by the trust authorities.
Call roll, please.
Tran,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
O'Neill. Mills.
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
6-0, motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, number 10, consider an agreement with Howard Fairbank Site Design Incorporated for design services for the Shawnee Airport Trail Extension Project. Sorry.
Now, this is a grant for just around $250,000 that we received last year. That we have $50,000 or just under $50,000 match. It's a little more than 10% of that, but it's primarily because we're asking them to look at some stuff outside of that that will corridor along MacArthur, namely making the existing trail, seeing what is out of compliance with ADA, as well as making improvements, and then also looking at making some improvements as far as the lighting. Vice Mayor Peterson had just asked about the lighting. That's one of the areas that we're looking at. Just as an example, they had identified a different type of lighting underneath the runway. The current lighting is substandard for pedestrian or bicyclists. It's too dark. They said and it's an older type of light, so if we modernize that and make some changes, it'd be more inviting as well. But it's a $250,000 grant. We are matching it with a $50,000 out of capital, and then we will also have be able to do some things like with beautification, the wayfinding study. Actually, one of the recommendations is to have a welcome sign at that location. So there's some other things that are involved in this, not just the roadway.
Now, wasn't this part of the extension to go on to St. Gregory's?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's part of it.
Yes.
Okay.
So the $50,000 that's in here for the lighting funds are the $48,000 I just
Yes.
asked about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Very good.
Oh, wait a minute.
I had that highlighted.
Okay, again, I'm sorry, I got confused just a second.
Okay.
We have about 50K in the current budget for that as a
For
mandate.
design.
For
design.
the design. Now, where's the other 50 on the line?
That'd be under construction.
Under construction. Okay. And where is that in our budget then?
That's the $48,000 that's left out of lighting. Which they're in their contract, it identified funding sources, and that has nothing to do with what we're paying this firm for. They're just saying their fees are kind of based off of those round numbers as to what all they will be doing. Because it also includes $50,000 for beautification for construction, which we don't have $50,000 this year. What we would do is look at it from a multiple phase approach. We also have money in next year's budget that was proposed to extend or redo some points along the airport trail. That's not identified in this contract either, but it's something, it's a construction item that is funded or will be funded eventually.
So the matching, the 50K matching, we have as the rollover in the current year's budget of 0607.
Yes, sir.
So the additional 50 is part of the budget for the 0708. Is that what you're saying?
The additional, all that this contract's for is for $41,000.
Okay, I understand.
And it's for
I'm
design.
trying to- What?
It's just for design. Once we have the design, then we will figure out exactly all the different areas as far as funding. We asked them to look at all of the project as a whole, lighting, beautification elements, as since that's an entryway. The wayfinding study actually is showing that as an entryway, possibly putting an entryway sign as you go under. But as far as this project, and it has to be approved by ODOT, we have a little over $45,000 that will pay for our portion of the match for design.
But part of the plan here, when it says development budget, is the 250,000 plus the 50 plus the 50 plus the 50.
Yes.
And if I accept to continue on with the 41,000, it looks like this is what our plan is too. So that's why I was trying to get a handle on where the funds are. And did we all already receive approval for the 250,000?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's why the first 50 is already,
Correct.
we have to have that to match.
Correct.
And that's in this current year's budget?
It was in last year's budget that was carried over to this year.
Okay, so we still have it this year. Okay, and you've expanded the project to include the lighting and the beautification,
Yes, ma'am.
of which,
Part of the beautification was in the original grant application, as well as sidewalks going all the way to Kickapoo. That scope was modified because the widening project added sidewalks on the north side. So we did not move forward with this design until we had completion on that transportation project, the widening and then the lighting, or the traffic signal. What this will do is basically give us the ability, we will work with the firm, we'll work with OBU, St. Gregory's, and user groups to come up with a design that meets ADA compliant, as well as safe, as it goes from St. Gregory's over to OBU. It will include some elements that go outside of that, which we would then be funding at a future date if we do not currently have them funded. It's not anything, we want to make sure that we have money or a design to bring the current trail into compliance and identify those problems. I don't want to go back and hire them, and basically we're trying to get this grant to help us fund some stuff that's outside the grant. That's what we're doing.
So right now, the money we have in the budget is the $50,000. Actually, it's $49,500.
And yes, sir. For this project, yes.
Yes. Okay. So the other question then is the lighting funds and beautification. Then, where's that money come from?
There's $48,000 that's in decorative lighting that we've carried over the last 2 years.
it's under streets, planning and code enforcement, 25 and 23.
Yeah, the $3,000 or $2,000 that was spent was the one light that's in front of the Aldridge. That was the additional light that we brought on 9th Street.
Okay, there it is. I see it. Thank you. Mayor, what I got confused on is I was trying to make sure that we didn't take money out of the street budget for lighting.
Right.
I was afraid we were spending it twice. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
It's okay.
We're all clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Other questions?
I have a question about the airport overpass over MacArthur. You said most of the change is going to be in lighting. Is there any other features going in, like screening or something to protect the walkway from the
Yes, sir.
traffic?
Yes,
Supposed to be a
sir.
safety measure.
That's one of the things that we'll be looking at is how do we more adequately protect pedestrians and bicyclists. Right now, you have people who walk on the south side that's unprotected. You have people on the north side that have to cross have to cross MacArthur twice. Now that we have a traffic signal, it makes it easier at one spot. But at Leo, we're going to look at different ways and quite possibly come back as the recommendation is a pedestrian signal. I don't know what we'll look at the numbers and see exactly how to move forward with that. And that's another element that would not be funded, but it would be something that we could look at over time. But yes, we also were looking at, it's not necessarily an enhancement, but a teardrop effect as far as right now the slope is so great that we have a hard time mowing it. as far as a maintenance issue. And we've also noticed that the dirt is starting to encroach in the road, where, just over time, the dirt's just starting moving. And if we terrace it, we can put some planting up. We'll look at different types of rock as far as retaining wall. That may include a mural in the future. So I mean, there are some things in there that we didn't want to just say, okay, here's the narrow scope of what we're trying to do, and then all of a sudden there's something on the outside, and we go, oh, well, we wish we would have included that. But we're looking at trees, lighting, enhancing it as an entryway sign, trying to make it more inviting, as well as a safer environment for the public.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, thanks, Mike. So we have a motion to
So moved. To accept.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Strand,
Second.
second by Commissioner Young. Call roll, please.
Tran,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
O'Neill,
Aye.
Mills.
Aye.
So motion carries.
Motion carries, thank you. Okay, 11, consider payment of tort claim of Miss Lizzie's Home Rentals to firm from 5707. And
She's not able to attend, so as you requested, we reconsider this first meeting in June. So I recommend that we do so. We'll move it till then.
so we need a motion to defer that to 6/4.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Young. Second. By
Second.
Commissioner Stevens. Thank you. Call roll, please.
Young,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Tran,
Aye.
O'Neill,
Aye.
Mills.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
So motion
Motion carries, thank you. Okay, number 12, consider unsubordinated commercial ground lease, that's really interesting, with commissioners of the land office for North School and South School leases at Shawnee Twin Lake. Give us a little, give us a little history, give us some information, break that thing down into layman terms.
Approximately 3 to 5 years ago, the School Land Commission and the city entered into a lease for all of the subleased property. I believe there are around 28 out of the 50-something lots that were identified on the north and south school tracts. We basically, this is a pass-through. We are currently billing $600 a year to those lots, and we are collecting $600 a year from those lots. So, basically when this came about, created a third level of fee structure, or the third level for the fee structure out of the lake lots. It's $200 a year for those who live in the city, $400 if you live out of the city, $600 if it's in the north or south school tracts. The only difference between the previous lease and this one is that it goes up to $660, and you will have to make a decision at some time, whether to pass that on or to eat it. So
And we get no administrative fee for that. It's just
the city commission decided at that time not to pass on any additional fee.
And my understanding is that there's going to be a considerable increase in the next 2 or 3 years in those, because they've started doing assessments and evaluating what the real value is. And I think they said something about what they've learned from Eufaula is they've gone in and looked at the value of lakeside leases, I guess, and I guess they started jacking those prices up accordingly. And I understand also that part of that's been a controversial issue as well, because then people think it's the city that's jacking that price up, and it's just a pass-through. The School Land Commission, is that who it is?
Yes, sir.
That's actually moving those valuations up. And if we don't make any money on it, it's just a pass-through, then we're going to get shot, for just being here, and not them. Maybe we should bring them down here. But Keith Kuhlman up here, he's pretty smooth. He probably like that.
Well, originally when the Shawnee Twin Lakes was constructed, for lack of a better term, that was all school land property, right?
On that section, yes, sir.
Okay, and it says here on page 72 that the lease encompasses 52 lots including 28 occupied lots. And you're saying these are going to have to be increased in the future if the commission votes that way?
Well, this lease that's in front of you is higher than the lease that we had 5 years ago.
Okay.
By $60 a year per lot. Each of those 28 lots would pay an additional $60 over what they're currently paying. It's currently $600, and this 28 into 18,480 was $660.
Okay, that's where they get the unsubordinated from?
That's a legal term. I'd have to refer to those more knowledgeable than I.
Now, we can step back from this and just, the school land commission could do what they want to do, and we still have some protection for development in that area. I mean, as far as our codes, or how does that work?
The contract that, the original agreement with the School Land Commission back in the 20s was for waterworks. Back in the 30s, the oldest lease that we have found was 1937 when it started. The City Commission at that point decided to start leasing property. Well, what we found about 5-6 years ago was that the city didn't have control over the property and had been leasing it for 60-something years in some cases. At that point, there was two choices. We could have dropped it and said, okay, School Land Commission, you now have to abide by our subdivision codes. Here's the density that you can build to. And they then would have to lease each one of them. Keith Coolman met with the lake leaseholders at that point, where that actually was part of the discussion. The decision that the City Commission made was to make it easier that the city would lease all of the land from the School Land Commission, and those 28 occupied lots would then be assessed $600 a year and would just basically be a pass-through. If you chose not to renew the lease, then each individual would need to negotiate with the School Land Commission. I don't know that process. That would be something that would be dealing directly with them.
John, is this something we have to address when? Now or sometime close in the future?
I think the lease is already, the 3-year lease is already expired, if I'm not mistaken. So
Okay.
technically, we should have probably addressed it sooner. No, it's already expired. Technically, but they don't have to lease out right now, so they can do whatever they want with it. The School Land Commission, if they want to. But they always let us run over and talk about it.
I would think we need a little more discussion or input on this.
I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah.
Again, the School Land Commission's in the driver's seat, just they own the property, not us.
But they haven't pressured us to renew the lease as of yet.
Phyllis said they were pushing us.
Yeah.
They keep saying, when are you going to talk? When are you going to talk about this?
Okay.
Right.
When did it expire?
3 months ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
it
says.
says February.
Did we not realize this was coming up, the expiration, or is this just something that we got busy doing other things? I just don't think it's a good practice for us to let these
Fester. Go.
type, I mean, this is a lease. We shouldn't
Right.
let it expire. We should address it well enough in time
You know that.
to fully explore it and discuss it.
You don't know when we got this, or why
I mean-
we pushed it back, or
Do we have a tracking mechanism in place to monitor when leases expire and
not till they send us a notice and say your lease is up. Yeah.
hey?
So
Something
we
might
have
wanna
to
think
pay
about.
it. We pay it, and then we collect it every month. So we pay it in advance.
Yes, sir. There's actually, last year, and actually it's in the budget that you probably see in front of you, depending on how detailed that line item is. But in last year's budget, because they've struggled, the finance department struggled on where this actually should go. I believe it's either in the parks or the lake operations. I think it's under parks. as an outside contract.
Basically, what we have in front of us is our agreement with the School Land Commission. But in this has some other details to it of how we handle this once we accept or not this lease. They are connected, but they're separate. So, I mean, I've highlighted quite a few things that kind of triggered how we might administer some of these things, because I hate for our policies to be different than what these are. I mean, you know, a 3-year lease for this versus our 5-year lease. I mean, that's one thing. There are questions here on insurance, verification and approvals, and I mean, all those kinds of things. And I wish we had with this a recommendation of how we would administer this from a policy standpoint. But are you saying that if we accept this, that you come back to us with another recommendation on cost of lake leases and or anything else that might be updated?
The only thing that I had in mind was the lease amount, and that was just basically explaining to you what we were currently in the hole by $60 per lot annually. Do we eat that, or is it passed on? The previous commission had decided to pass it on, and if you pass it on, at what cost? Is there administrative cost, or do you pass it on exactly as it is? And those are basically the question I had. I was not looking at it from a 3-year lease, because that's all that the school land will do. You know, we could do an evergreen lease, which is what we've talked about on the regional park, which you basically pay the current value and have control over it for 55 years, but in year 56, you're back to this. So you would pay 55 years of leases and then bill out, theoretically, over that time period. But, you know, would you want to be in debt, you know, basically waiting on payment for that period of time? You know, it wouldn't be my recommendation.
We're not making any money on it anyway, so.
But I think we might need to explore this a little bit more.
Yeah, it's pretty complex.
I mean, it's complex, and this affects the 28 people that are out there.
Right.
There's going to be an increase. I'm sure they don't know anything about it.
We
We need to
want-
figure out how we're going to administer it, because it's one of those things. It goes back to, you know, are we tracking the payment of the lake leases in the first place? You know, we had the issue some months back, and there was a question about, you know, are we tracking them? We need to know if we're tracking these people. They need to know that we as the city are paying like we're supposed to. We have a fiduciary responsibility to these people. Sorry.
There you go, Mike.
But we
Looks like
do.
you got
We
a
have
good task.
a fiduciary. We're taking money from them, and apparently, you know, we're not overseeing our business in a timely fashion. So let's figure out how we're going to do it.
Well, I think the other thing is that if we accept this 3-year lease, regardless of what we do, whether we lose money for 1 year, 3 years, I mean, there are options out there. I hate to see us having a 3-year lease with the School Land Commission and then us having a 5-year lease
Absolutely.
with the residents out there.
Because you're going to get
Just,
the increase.
it ought to come at the same time. It ought to be bopped up together, and when this expires, then we ought to have a new contract here, and then we ought to have a new contract with the other 28, and it ought to be fairly
Right.
predictable,
Or we step out altogether and let the school land commission deal with it.
and that's an option.
Right.
It's another option.
I think we just need to know what we're doing
Yeah.
and how we're going to do it. Sorry.
What are you smiling about? That's your option?
What we'll do is we can bring,
Pay me later.
what we can do is the staff can do more research
I
and
think it's a
bring
good
it
idea.
back to you.
We should defer this.
Where does the lease revenue go? What department?
Goes in the general fund.
Under,
Yeah, it would be.
okay. Okay.
License and permits.
Okay. Just wanted to know.
It's a lakeside east of Nickel River. Yeah,
I'm in SMA. Okay.
This obviously has come up every 3 years.
This is the first time it's been renewed.
First time it's been renewed?
I was saying 5 years. I thought it was 5 years ago. Yeah, it was 3.
And maybe now it's 3. Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen it before.
Yeah, but this is the first time it's been renewed.
More information.
As far as
Yeah,
Lots.
it's kind of hard to give 5-year leases when we have to sign, we're obligated to a 3-year.
Well, yeah, exactly. How do we tell these people we can give you a 5-year lease if we don't have a lease after 3 years? I mean, there's a problem there, sorry.
Let's defer it and send it back to them for more study. So, do we have a specific date we want to do that?
Who is them?
You?
You all.
Staff? Okay.
You.
I didn't want to make sure it was
Staff.
in this direction and not the state school ain't commission. I was
you
going,
and-
that's going to take me out.
We're not going to be in jeopardy of losing our lease.
No, I think they'll let it slide.
Well, someone
will-
can
I think we should
communicate with them.
communicate with
But yeah,
them
we
as
should.
to what we're doing. That's
They come
right,
in
you
offer
know,
a
Trying to
tell
clean
them,
it up.
we're not ignoring you. That's right.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Direct them to Mike.
I thought this was a slam dunk, right?
Nothing's easy. Okay, so when
Well-
should we defer this to? Second
I'd
meeting?
rather do it second meeting.
Second meeting, June, yeah.
If that's okay.
I agree.
Make a motion to defer to turn back to staff, right?
Right.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Schran, second by Commissioner Stevens to
How long
defer
a
to the second
deferment
meeting
do
in
you
June.
need, Jim?
Second meeting.
Second meeting in June.
Second meeting in June?
Okay. Call roll, please.
Fran,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
O'Neill, Hill,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
So much.
Motion carries, thank you. 13, consider acceptance of Kickapoo Run addition improvements and placing maintenance bonds into effect.
You may do it too? Okay. This actually, this addition was one that the commission waived the bonding requirements as far as the performance bonds, but these bonds or the maintenance bonds that will be in effect for the next up to 5 years. We've done inspections on the streets, the homes. Some of them are ready to have a CO, and they're ready to go to permanent financing. We've looked at and performed the inspections, find that they're in compliance with all of our regulations, and recommend that we place them into effect.
Questions? Motion?
I move that we accept the improvements of the bonds.
Motion by Commissioner Young,
Second.
second by Commissioner Stevens. Call roll, please.
Young,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Fran, O'Neill, Hill,
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
5 on motion carries.
Motion carries, thank you. 14, consider a work session in June for updating building and fire codes.
We had an internal discussion a couple weeks ago as far as notifying builders and notifying the public as to when changes are occurring. And I had mentioned that we had planned to do just that when we were bringing the building code back up for the 2006 International Code. We're currently under 2003. But our plan, as far as internal plan, was to bring it forward in August for adoption. So the city manager had suggested that we do a work session with you. We have no intention of going in great detail because you're talking 3,000 to 6,000 pages. When we adopted the 2003 code, we had roughly 6 to 12 meetings with the construction industry, and it just depends on how you want to proceed. We still will be meeting with them, but in our discussions within staff, we felt like keeping you informed of what we were doing, and in case you wanted to be involved with this process, you could.
So we were thinking one of the free Mondays in June,
What about the last one?
like the 25th.
25th.
Okay.
Push it out. Huh?
Yeah, of course.
In fact, I was just looking at my calendar, and June's going to be hard enough for
Yeah.
What kind of input would you be looking for from 7 commissioners that know absolutely nothing about building
Well,
fire code?
what we would do, Commissioner, is give you an overview of how the building code works, what the process for renewal is,
It's not a
what that
decision
means from a
making.
fee
No.
what that means from a fee increase standpoint, and our acting fire chief, Alan Heileman, had made some interesting observations as well. So it would just be an educational session for not only the commission, but anybody who wanted to attend. And then if you had any policy guidance you wanted to provide to us, we could input it in the system at that time.
And for those of you, I guess it's all of you, with the exception of one that was here when we adopted the last one, what we would come back with is a series of ordinances that have referencing the code, the 2003 International Plumbing Code, as an example, and then have the exceptions, because in each of the codes, the first thing it says is you can adopt special exceptions to meet your local building practice. An example would be not requiring tempered glass in a residential structure when the window is less than 18 inches from the floor. A typical Dallas-style home may have a window next to the door that's 6 inches from the floor. So in Oklahoma and Texas and a few other states, we've adopted exceptions to that rule, where it's not required. When I first got here, that was an issue that came out with Commissioner Roach brought up to Terry Powell, that they were not going to issue a CO on one of Mr. Bryant's homes because it didn't have tempered glass on each side. And when in Oklahoma City and other communities, they have that exception.
But historically, most cities are not up to the same year as like the NEC code. Some cities are operating on the 2007 code. I don't know what we are. We're probably
2003.
What year?
2003.
2003.
2003 was the last IBC code that's been adopted.
And that's something we have no control over, right?
You do.
We can't jump it up 5 years, 4 years.
There's only one that's out at a time. That the 2006 came out a couple months ago. Up until that point, it was just still draft documents. But we did not feel that, due to the construction that's occurring at the time, that we could not bring it forward, because there's a lot of going through and comparing paragraphs that it's very time consuming, and felt like we really ought to try and stay with the construction.
Well, this also affects the individuals that want to take the contractor's test, journeyman electrician's test, journeyman's plumber's test. They're not based on today's standard, they're based on 2003.
The state test, is what they would be taking, and I don't know. I think the state has already adopted it or enacting it. I'm not certain. I know that they're moving in that direction. But as far as our code wouldn't reflect on the plumbing test, they're not going to. And you might very well have two different codes. What I had in '99 in Muskogee was the 1990 BOCA code. And what had happened is that there were a couple elected officials in Muskogee that were electricians, and they didn't like some of the changes that were when it went over to the IBC. So they said, no, we're not going to adopt. Yeah. So since the BOCA code was not rewritten, they just never adopted it. And the state had continued to move forward, and the state health department actually is going by the 2003 right now and will be enacting the 2007. The state fire marshal's office has already adopted 2007. So any commercial building actually has to comply with that now, because the state fire marshal actually gives us jurisdiction in doing some of the things Alan does. Otherwise, they would take jurisdiction.
All right.
But Mike Cox will be able to explain it in a lot more detail than I can.
the word updating is kind of misleading, because we're not really going to update it to the present.
No, it'd just be, adopting a newer code.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we're shooting for the 25th or what?
That would be my request, Jim.
Okay.
Okay. Do you need a motion for that?
I don't know, do we?
No, we don't need a motion.
Do we just
We
do
need
it?
a motion.
Notice? Oh, okay. Okay. Let's have a motion in a second then.
I'll make a motion that we have a work session on June 25th for updating building and fire code information.
Motion by Vice Mayor Peterson, second by Commissioner O'Neill. Call roll, please.
Peterson.
Aye.
O'Neill. Aye. Hill.
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Tran.
Aye.
So motion carries.
Motion carries, thank you. 15, consider temporarily suspending tap fee increases as set out in ordinance number 2289 NS.
Over the last several weeks, we've been meeting with several stakeholders and having several discussions internally as well concerning the tap fee increases that were enacted on November 20th, if my memory's right, of '06. There is a question there are some questions that at this time the staff needs more research on, specifically the differences between tap fees, connection fees, inspection fees, and impact fees. I have been in touch with the Municipal League and a few others. We talked about it extensively, and based on that input from the stakeholders, then I'm requesting that we suspend these until such time as we can provide better analysis for the enactment initially.
Okay.
And I can't give you really a date certain, as soon as we can.
And that's with the understanding that when you bring the ordinance back, you will have processed that through the home builders
You betcha.
in the local area, and they'll have input for the ordinance and understand the justification so that we all know what we're doing.
Absolutely. I'm glad
Okay.
you brought that up. That is implicit in my request, but it's good that...
And proper notice.
And proper notice, you bet. Really what we need to do is have a series of these briefing sessions and input sessions.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Questions? Motion?
Go ahead. You go ahead.
Now, this
You can
is
do
a
it and I'll
suspension
second
of the increase. It'll stay at the old level.
All right.
It will stay
So-
at the old level.
The old level. It's just the increase that's being suspended.
Right.
Right, so I'll make a motion to temporarily suspend the tap fee increases as set out in ordinance number 2289 NS. So the fees will go back to what they were before this ordinance was
Prior to
adopted.
November 20th, '06.
Motion by Vice Mayor Peterson,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Stevens. Call roll, please.
Peterson.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Tran.
Aye.
O'Neill. Aye. Hill.
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
So motion carries.
Motion carries, thank you. 16, consider awarding bid for pump tanker apparatus.
Alan Heileman, interim fire chief. We had a committee to get together with a particular shift we have that is in charge of all our maintenance, and they're also in charge of speccing a lot of these trucks out that we do put out for bid. And with that committee, we have looked at all 4 bids, and we recommend going with Chief Fire and Safety Company in the amount of $274,862. That is the lowest bid that met all of our specifications.
And again, where's the money coming from?
This money is coming from the county sales tax, totally paid from the county sales tax.
Cool.
Yes, it doesn't show up in our budget, that's the
Right.
point.
Yeah.
And we use this primarily to assist fires out in the county as well, though?
This will be used, yes, it will be, as far as mutual aid agreements and responding where all of our other units do.
Okay.
But it will definitely assist the county.
Okay.
Move to accept recommendation.
Motion by Commissioner Schran,
Second.
second by Commissioner Young. Call roll, please.
Tran.
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
O'Neill. Aye. Hill.
Aye.
So motion carries.
Motion carries, thank you. New business.
None.
Administrative reports.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Don Lynch, Emergency Management Director. Just wanted to take a couple of minutes to reiterate a few things that I discussed with you on the last meeting and update you on our community warning siren system. Our siren system consists of electromechanical devices. That is, they force air through a horn to create that sound, unlike other communities which have electronic devices, so that we have basically one particular sound. It's either on or it's off, blowing the air through that particular horn. In our current siren system, there were 7 sirens installed in the 1960s. And these sirens are omnidirectional. The sound goes out in all directions at the same time. 15 of our sirens were installed in the late 1990s, and these rotate. So the siren, actually the head of the siren rotates around in a 360-degree circle. And then the sound is driven out from that horn. So if you're on the back side of that horn as it's rotating around, that's going to considerably lessen the distance that sound may travel. While many residents are able to hear the sirens from inside their homes and their businesses, the purpose of the warning system is to alert residents who are outdoors when a warning is given. Therefore, outdoor warning systems are really not effective, particularly in warning in air-conditioned and tightly insulated buildings. We have to attract the attention of the people who are listening with those sirens to get that message, and if there's background noise, ambient noise, other things that make it difficult for that siren to penetrate through those walls and buildings and be heard as well. There are different things that, as we talked about last time, that change the way that sound travels. So depending on how far it can be heard in different directions. The divergence, how the siren sound spreads out with distance, the effects of the ground, barriers that are in place, temperature and wind, foliage, absorption in the atmosphere, all of those affect how far that sound will carry that's produced by that device. And it's for those reasons that we recommend that for indoor warning that you have an additional system of some sort to be installed. And those systems include either monitoring local radio and TV stations which participate in the emergency alert system, monitoring of the All Hazards NOAA weather radio system, or a number of media outlets, and including the Weather Channel, offer email, instant messaging on cell phones, pager activation, those kinds of things as well. The state also offers that kind of a program for the hearing impaired, as I mentioned last time. Once our sirens are activated for a weather event, they are not resounded for the same storm or for a particular sighting of a tornado. In keeping with the policy of the National Weather Service, we don't issue an all clear, so there's no sounding for an all clear signal with those sirens. The warning systems could be resounded if there's a new warning that's issued for a second storm, an additional storm, a new storm that's impacting the community. Say one storm passes through, we sound them again, because this has happened particularly May 3rd, 1999, where several communities were impacted multiple times with storms, and so that's a possibility. But generally, once we've sounded them on a storm, we don't resound those sirens again. Sirens were a topic of discussion last week among the Central Oklahoma emergency managers. For all the communities in Central Oklahoma, there are some different ways that the sirens are used, the different ways that they're tested, sounded, what the warning signals mean, a lot of difference among our communities. For instance, City of Oklahoma City tests their sirens at noon on Saturday, and I've had people who live out around the Twin Lakes say, we hear you when you test your sirens. We don't test our sirens on Saturday in Shawnee, we test ours on Wednesday. So if they hear a siren on Saturday, they're hearing one of Oklahoma City sirens, and that does happen. And one of the media folks who was attending our meeting talked about the fact that people will call into their station and say, we're hearing the sirens in Edmond, when Edmond is not sounding their sirens officially. So why is that going on? That creates confusion amongst people. And that fact is due because Oklahoma City has a lot of sirens right along the south border with Edmond, or Oklahoma City's north border. So there's some differences in that location and stuff like that. And so we're, as the emergency managers, are going to schedule a work session amongst ourselves to try to work out some of these differences, to work with the media so we can get a standardized system across central Oklahoma that will be easy to communicate with the public. And then we're going to work with the media to make sure that that happens. And the media that were attendance there were very positive about helping us with that. Also, in addition to the regular weekly testing that we do here in Shawnee, whether it's the actual physical sounding or the silent test that we do over the next few weeks, I'm going to go to each siren on a clear day, good weather day, and growl test every siren to make sure that it is working, just to verify that it is occurring. And when we can get a good day where we can schedule people, we'll put people at each siren location and make sure that they're sounding for the full 3 minutes as they go along there as well. So in addition to that, during this summer, we'll be using a decibel meter to measure the sound level at various distances from the sirens as we sound them. And we use that data to help us select the sites for relocation of the sirens that we've identified that we can relocate. And if we need additional sirens, if we need to come back to you and request some funding in the future budgets, that will give us a basis for doing that. It won't just be my educated guess to you or a recommendation that we do that. We'll have some concrete data with the decibel meter readings. Will help us make some better decisions about that. So I'll continue to provide you with periodic reports on where we're at and the status of those endeavors, and just wanted to kind of bring you up to speed on that. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to try to address those. So, okay, thanks for your time.
I have a couple things. 2 o'clock this afternoon, we had a pretty good meeting, I thought, down at Bell and Farrell with ODOT. I had gotten a call and then notified Commissioner O'Neill, and then she asked for a couple of the community members in Dunbar Heights. And we met with 3 members of the engineering team from ODOT to discuss that interchange down there. And I'm sure, Commissioner, if you want to join in here, I thought it was very productive. They've asked us when would be appropriate to do the studies, what times of day. I don't think they had a very clear understanding, particularly in terms of the impact on the big trucks coming out of the mill. And as fortunately we would have it right at that moment in time, we got to witness one. So, and then we talked quite a bit about the difficulty that Farrell Street poses to the neighborhood south of Farrell, particularly in terms of the access to downtown for pedestrians or bicyclists. I had a conversation with him earlier in the morning where I was explaining the necessity of being able to get pedestrian traffic up to into the municipal auditorium, the Salvation Army area, particularly for the kids, and of course Woodland Park. So, Commissioner, I would defer to you. I thought it was a pretty productive meeting.
I was very grateful. It was very productive. And I'm so grateful to you and the DOT people that came out this afternoon. And I'm sure the community is grateful also. Concerned.
Yeah, and we reiterated that the city is willing to build the light and assume responsibility for it. So they're going to run the study, but they're not going to start the study until they receive input from the community down there, the neighborhood down there, as to when, specifically the times that the ODOT people need to be down there. Okay. The other item I have is a question that's been raised with the lake levels having come up on recreation on Lake One. Article 9, I think, right, Commissioner?
9, Section 1. Section
1 states that water sports will be allowed on Lake One, but prohibited on Lake Two, the Twin Lakes. Under my police powers as a city manager for exigent circumstances, I have the authority to suspend that, and John Canavan and I have talked about that. The question becomes now, what kind of activity should be allowed back on the lake? An individual contacted me last week asking whether we could put kayaks back there, and I indicated at that time I was not comfortable with that. We're not really set up to handle boat rescues right now. Right now it's limited to fishing from the shore and from the docks and so on. And I guess I'd like to put that out for consideration and have a little bit of discussion, or maybe we need to discuss it at another time. But that's where it's sitting right now. The only thing that we're allowing out there is, in terms of recreation, is fishing from the docks. We have raised the lake, of course. It has come up nicely, but a big part of that, and it's difficult to delineate exactly how much, has been done to the running the Atoka line.
What elevation is it at now, do you know?
Jim, do you have that? Yeah, and we were going to run it somewhere in the 1064, 1065 range. It's a little hard to maintain it exactly. Okay. Jim, do you want to comment on that at all? Yeah, we're striking about, yes, sir. We cut it back. Initially, we ran it about 7 million gallons a day for a while. Then we cut it down to 4. We're running about 2 right now, I think. So it's a balancing act. We're trying to maintain the hydraulics without at the same time being cognizant of the fact that we're spending money on Atoka, and we didn't want to put too big a burden on our residents and other fee payers.
We're not mixing West Watkins water.
Are we mixing right now? I don't think we are.
No.
Again, we're hoping that the rains, West Watkins, of course, recovers very quickly because of the size of the watershed. It's a deep, it's a deep lake, and the soil composition and so on in that watershed. We had a lot of algae problems, and that's what threw some bad taste at us several months ago. We're hoping that the recent rains has flushed it pretty good, but we just haven't gotten back to it yet.
Is there a level that you're comfortable at that non-motorized craft would be? I mean, I know other than the rescue, is there a level, or do you have a thought? We have a boat. We have a boat, right?
Well, sort of. Really, it's not my area of expertise. I really couldn't speak authoritatively to what would be an appropriate level. It was clear when it was so low it was because all the stuff that was popping up, the concrete blocks and stuff like that. We could see that. There was a safety factor, yes. Now that the water has come up, it's frankly not as strong, easily to defend a position. I've held that, again, up to this point in time, based on the reasons for the original decision.
Except
so we're evaluating it right now.
That we told the other citizens that we would not buy Atoka water so that we could have recreation on the lake.
That is yes, that was my understanding of how we passed that.
And if we have Atoka water in there, I mean, we haven't cut off the Atoka line. If we have Atoka water in there, basically waiting for the summer, we had rains, which probably raised it some too, but if we're waiting for the summer, then that some of that Atoka water is still in there. It's artificially raised, let's put it that way.
That's correct.
Well, we're not raising the lake level with the Atoka water. We're consuming more than we're taking from the Atoka water line.
That's a hard delineation to make right now since we have had additional rains.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm getting to. We've had more increase in the lake level from the recent rains than we have with the Atoka water line.
That's a hard determination to make, really, because we've been doing both simultaneously.
Well, if we're taking 2 million gallons a day from the Atoka water line and we're using 4 million gallons, and the lake level went up to 1 foot below normal, it had to come from the rain.
But we used.
But we ran 7.
But we ran 7 million for the several days initially, and then we cut it down to 4 million.
We're not using the Atoka water that people are paying extra for recreation.
Some of that lake level increase is Atoka water, yes, sir, it is.
If we're using 4 million gallons, we're only taking 2 from them. How can we be using the?
But we've artificially inflated it to get it to that level, and we want to maintain that level.
I'm contending the rain inflated it.
I don't think so.
Okay, while the levels are down, are we going to go out there and clean up around that lake and clean out the channel? We need to put the bulldozer thing down in the channel. It's solid down in there. It looks horrible. And we talk about when the lake levels are really low, that, you can see the concrete blocks. Well, while the lake levels are low, we as the city need to get out there and pick the concrete block up and move it elsewhere, so that it's not there in the first place. So have we done any of that?
We haven't moved any of the concrete. We have been cleaning out the channel. And Jim, if you want to comment on that. I mean, I was out there one day when they were pulling the trees out.
where did we clean out the channel? Because when I heard we cleaned out the channel, I drove out there during the day with my little bitty person, and when you can stand there and still see the same air conditioner down in there and still see the same walkie-talkie on the rocks over there, that would lead me to believe someone hasn't picked it up.
Vegetation primarily, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we pulled
You couldn't
trees.
clean out the vegetation unless you took the air conditioner out.
Linda sent us
So-
a picture of it before and after, and oh, the canal. Yeah, I thought
The
she said canal.
canal. The channel between the two lakes has
That's
not
canal.
been.
Right. Right, and that's what she was talking about. I thought it was canal.
That's what I thought we were talking about.
Well, okay, I'll venture back out and we'll take pictures.
Tributaries
I don't
were a
know.
whole
I guess
nother
I'm
issue.
confused.
Tributary's not the question. You can see, all you have to do is go to the bridge and lean over and there's the air conditioner.
Well, tributaries are what's feeding the lake, and that definitely needs to be cleaned out. There's no question about that. And that-
Okay. Well, my question is, what are we going
Board
to
of
do?
Engineers.
Are we going, is there a plan to do the canal? Is there a plan while there's not water in there to start cleaning it out so that when there is water in there, we don't have that debris?
Jimmy,
That's
you're
a
working
safety
with the
hazard.
court people.
Right.
Can you get up, please? Come up, please.
We pulled the trees off the channel, and then we got with Judge Combs for
Absolutely.
community service people.
Right.
And that lady went out and we went with her and looked over what all we were wanting, and she scheduled stuff 2 weeks ahead. So we plan on having somebody out there around the 1st of June to pull up trees around the swimming area. And really, we told her we can work somebody as long as they're going.
Right, and they have a lot of people that need community service, and I think that's something we need to talk about. There's a lot of people that need community service hours, and Judge Combs has really worked hard to try to have them do truly public projects, and this is one of them.
They will deliver them. It's not-
Right, they will deliver them to the park, they're supervised, that's been coordinated with the Twin Lakes Association, so that they'll know and we'll get the information out, and it's a wonderful opportunity to use.
Do we have equipment?
Citizens,
Free labor.
free labor, citizens that need to give back to their community.
Do we have equipment to move everything and a place to haul it to?
If we're on the right Saturday, I guess.
That's my next one.
We can handle it. We have places to store vegetation, as in the trees and the other shrubs that we're pulling out. In terms of the appliances, we are under the same requirements as anybody else is, in terms of landfilling.
Now, do we have, now we're getting off the subject of the lake, but do we have a disposal unit at the Public Works facility for those folks who cannot make it to the dump during the week? Did it ever get set up? I know we talked about it.
No, we haven't done that yet.
Okay.
Along those lines, kind of gets into commissioner comments, but this is fine. I have a meeting with Brett Bowles, I don't remember, next Monday, I think. Tuesday, thank you. Yeah, Mondays, yeah, next Tuesday, to discuss that very issue, and I'll be able to report back to you.
I believe in using the people who need to complete some community service work. I believe this is a great project to clean up, because it's going to take a lot of hands. It's not just one or two people. So, bright idea.
Yeah, the point is valid. Again, it's manpower allocation, what we've been working with, given the number of people we have on the distribution collection systems.
We're always advocating quality of life, and I think fortunate to have Shawnee Twin Lakes, and unfortunate not to have any recreation activities, even minimal. I think we ought to consider that a great quality of life, is to utilize the lake for recreational purposes, if at all possible.
West Watkins is wide open. It's a recreational lake.
Oh, yeah, it is. So I'll follow the guidance you provide. I've made the decision up to this point in time. The question is, given the fact that a certain percentage of the increase in the lake has been to the Atoka line, how much recreation allowed back on the lake? That's the question.
I think maybe I will make it a point to get an agenda item, maybe even for a public hearing, to get input from the public about the activities on the lake, if we can do it, to what extent, unmotorized boats, or just swimming, or no boating.
We should have some best practices from other lakes, maybe, since don't have experts.
Yeah, we'll look into that. We tried that before, and it's all over the map.
Everybody seems to do it differently. But we'll try to do that.
If you can give me some input before the next agenda meeting, then I might not even have to put it on the agenda if you can reach some kind of conclusion on your own, you and staff.
Okay.
Is that fair enough?
Sure, that's fine. Right now, my thinking is it makes sense to go ahead and allow swimming, but boating right now, I need to give that a little thought.
Well, swimming, that's a start. I was
And
out there.
fishing for the
I
piers,
was out
which
there
has
yesterday.
always been allowed.
There was a lot of people fishing and a couple nice looking stringers guys were putting in their truck.
Sure.
And they're catching all them from the shore or from the boat dock. Now, the areas for swimming, we could start with a small area or a safe area, since we don't have a ranger out there.
Swim
I know
at
there
risk.
has to be.
At risk
I don't
area.
want to bring
Yeah,
that
of course,
down.
swimming's always been at risk, as I understand out there, right?
Yep.
But that's one of the areas, obviously, we need to pull up some of the shrubs and whatnot that it's developed.
Well,
And
we
up to
can
this point in time, it really has been a manpower allocation.
You
Yes, sir.
can post swimming areas and non-swimming areas, right? You don't have to open the whole lake.
It's my, it was my understanding there was only one swimming area, right, at the park, I believe.
Anyway, if you and staff could look
Yeah,
into
there's
that.
two.
It's two, where's the other one?
It's straight on the west side.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll give that some more consideration, but I wanted to put it on the table because some questions have been raised. Anything else at that level? Okay, that's the administrative reports.
Okay.
Thank you.
19, consider an executive session to discuss pending litigation entitled City of Shawnee versus Hub et al. Pursuant to 25 OS 307B4. So, John.
Did you have a motion?
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Motion by Vice Mayor Peterson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Young. Call roll, please.
Peterson.
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Tran.
Aye.
O'Neill.
Aye.
Mills.
Aye.
So motion.
Okay, we are recessed for an executive session.
There we go.
Give me a short one.
Yeah, but we're gonna take pictures.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Tom, they're confusing cleaning out the tributaries between the two lakes.
Many of my
Between the two lakes has all sorts of debris. And they have a custom. And it has huge boulders and caved off the side. So if and when we do get to boats, okay, it's going to be dangerous for boats because of the boulders and hammers are going through the land there for years, plus all the trees. That's going to require
I got them full. I got one carriage
between the two lakes to clean up before the water gets in. You can't cure really. I'm not really expecting them to go through it. They can't, well, but if the water comes and gets too low, they can't screw around and get it right.
Okay. Let's see if we can put a fire on it.
Okay. Thank you for your help.
Chris,